My name is Jim Palmer. I was born and raised in New York, and I went to school in Farmingdale, New York, which is a two-year community college. I went there on a scholarship, and I wanted to be an engineer. The class was electricity and magnetism, and I asked a simple question, didn't get a satisfactory answer. It developed to an argument. I told him I wanted to drop the class. I went to see the dean, and the dean said to me, if you drop this class, we'll get you drafted. I'll kick you out of school, and I'll change your draft status to A1, and you'll be drafted in a few weeks. I got into an argument with the dean, and I quit the class right there on the spot and left. And within 2 weeks, my draft status was changed to A1. You were gone within 60 days to probably Vietnam at that time, which was, the war was raging in 1968. So I went to airborne school. I was a paratrooper. They came to our jump school class of 1,500 men, and they picked the 40 tallest guys out of 1,500, and I happened to be one of those guys. So they took my orders for Vietnam and sent me to Washington, D.C. instead, where I spent the next 18 months toward my duty in Washington, D.C. And it was a remarkable place because, first of all, you were very privileged to be in this organization. We were treated very well. The discipline was extreme, and they were very, very strict about discipline. Our main function was ceremonial. Each company, 5 companies, had funeral duty 1 day a week. And ours was Thursday, and on Thursday we probably performed 10 or 15 funerals. 3 of them were probably elderly servicemen who died. The rest were guys killed in Vietnam. And the sheer volume was striking. The fact that you're burying 8 or 9 guys a day times 5 at one cemetery in the United States, just after a while, it has a profound effect on you. You keep thinking, my God, dude, you're burying a lot of young guys, because you watch parents and you watch young wives, and these young wives, they're 20, they're 21 years old, they're grieving for their dead husband, and she's 21 years old. And every once in a while you'd see a pair of adults who would be looking at you, and sometimes mom would, sometimes dad would come and say, you look like our son, and we're here to visit his grave. And, it was just tough, just sad situation to be in. I think it was 1969, the war protests became significant. And when Nixon heard about the March on Washington, he didn't want to leave town because he thought that would create a poor image if the president left town, because people were going to protest. So what they did instead was they brought in troops. One of the duties and charges of the old guard was to protect the White House. So they moved several hundred of us into the executive office building next to the White House. They ringed the White House with city buses 2 deep, and about 500,000 people showed up for this protest. And I was on the 3rd floor of the executive office building, and it was the largest crowd I'd ever seen in my life. I mean, there were people as far as the eye could see. And the night we came in at 2 o'clock in the morning before the protest started, and we had our rifles, bayonets, and they had a pallet of live ammunition. Live ammunition. They wanted us to have ammunition. And, when you're in a circumstance that you know is wrong, but you don't know what to do about it, sometimes you do nothing. So we're all standing around not knowing what to do. And this guy, Bowen, stands up and says, I'm not doing that. And of course they jump all over this guy, and insubordination and refusing to take an order, and we'll court-martial you. He said, I don't care. I'm not doing it. So then they consulted for about 20 minutes. And then they thought about it and they went, never mind. And they left the ammunition there in the basement of the executive office building. And this kid, I mean, they kicked his ass. I mean, they did bust him. They did everything they could to him. But he was right. It was crazy. It was a crazy thing to even think about. And it turns out that the crowd was a bunch of college kids. And they're there to have a good time. They're drinking beer. They're talking and yelling. There were a few agitators, but by and large, the crowd was there because it was a thing to do. It was Woodstock. It was like, hey, let's, we're going to go over there. The Army had decided, the turning point really was, the Army had decided that not enough of us had enough medals. So they created a field exercise where they would take us from our barracks and then put us into a camp situation for a month. We would undergo a series of tests, and as we completed the tests, we would then earn a medal that was very similar to combat medals. For instance, the Expert Infantryman's Badge, which means that you had been in combat, was a blue badge about 3 inches long and about 3/4 of an inch high, with a rifle in it and a silver wreath around it. They created the same medal without the silver wreath. And we were supposed to complete a marksmanship course, and then we got to wear this. And clearly the idea was that we would look like we were combat guys, and we weren't. Excuse me. No, I was very close to these guys.
And how'd you feel about it? You thought that was unfair?
We thought it was disgusting. We thought it was disrespectful. I had just lost my best friend in the war. And we just thought it was deceptive, it was manipulative, and it was horribly disrespectful to all these guys. So, we didn't win any medals. We cheated on the tests. We made a mockery of the whole thing. We had a 12-mile forced march. We snuck out the night before, and we buried cases of beer along the route, and we got drunk when we came back. We were late. We took the compass course and went the opposite directions. We just failed the whole test. And one of the guys in my company, his dad was an editor for the Evening Star. He called his dad. Well, they sent a reporter. Well, reporters did not report negative news from the troops themselves. It did not happen. And of course, the guys we sent out to talk to the reporter were combat veterans. And these guys, we had a Medal of Honor winner. We had some really, really brave guys that went out there and talked to these guys. Then the shit hit the fan, really big. And they tried to suppress it, but they couldn't. And the next thing we knew, the captain was replaced, the first sergeant was replaced, executive officer was replaced, battalion commander was replaced. And then after that, nothing was the same in the old guard for us. Everything, the discipline was completely gone, relaxed. If an officer walked in the room, he didn't stand up anymore. We'd lost all respect for their pretense at honor, because in the end, it didn't seem like they had any honor. There really wasn't, they weren't who they said they were. They kept telling us that, you're doing this for your country, you're doing this for honor. What honor was there when you cheat and lie about what honor is? You can't have it both ways. So we lost respect for them, but that profoundly affected my view of our government and what I thought of what they said and what they did. To me, seemed to be two different things, and I became a skeptic. And when I hear they want to go to war for this reason or that reason, it never strikes me as ringing true. It doesn't seem to me that the guys who thought of this country would have wanted that to be that way. America is the only country where the citizenry has a responsibility to be true to an ideal. Not just a country, but to be true to an ideal. So Americans are the only ones who are citizens by conviction. My name is Jim Palmer, and I am an American.